glad you relaxed. I'm a little nervous myself. I mean, I've never interviewed a psychologist.
Don't worry about it. If you get in trouble, just turn it over to me and I'll wing it.
Oh.
10 seconds, Ruth.
Thanks, Augie.
You'll be fine.
Here goes.
3, 2, you're on.
Good morning. It's 7 o'clock, and I'm Ruth Corley. My first guest is psychologist Dr. Robert Hartley. It's been said that today's psychologist is nothing more than a con man, a snake oil salesman, flim-flamming innocent people, peddling cures for everything from nail biting to a lousy love life. And I agree. We'll ask Dr. Hartley to defend himself after this message.
Hi, I'm David Westcott. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at UNC Children's. Thanks for agreeing to participate in this media training. As you know, this video is the first part of the training, and it's going to outline the basic fundamentals, how to prepare, what to say, how to say it, and how to deal with a tough question. After the video, I'll sit down with you to talk in more detail, answer your questions, and then try a practice interview. And then we'll go over what you did in more detail and maybe do a second one, and then what happens next is up to you. It'll depend on your interest, it'll depend on your comfort level, things like that. Talking with the media is not always an easy thing to do, but people are really counting on you to be the leaders in children's health in North Carolina. An interview is an opportunity to give thousands of people the information they need to make smart decisions for the health of children. So I really am grateful for your participation in this, and I know you're going to be great. So let's get started. Typically, I'll get a short notice request, but I can tell you a few things. First, the reporter's name and where they happen to be writing from or recording from. Obviously, the topic, what you're going to be talking about and why. You'll also know if it's a TV interview, a radio interview, a newspaper interview, or online chat. And you should always know that you don't have to do this. There's no rule that says you have to talk to a reporter if you're not comfortable. Talking with reporters can be hard for anyone, and it's particularly hard for doctors because you've been trained to describe every detail before you get to the conclusion.
All right, so room 416, Miss Libby.
So Miss Libby is our 84-year-old female, history of adenocarcinoma of the biliary tree, recently hospitalized here for cholangitis, status post ERCP with 2 stent replacements, here for gram-negative rod bacteremia.
I'm wrong. So you have a history of high blood pressure, also have diabetes, and you've had problems with your pancreas in the past.
He said that the pain started 2 days ago while he was working the night shift and has gradually gotten worse.
You've also been having some nausea and vomiting. Actually, you told me yesterday you threw up a little bit of blood after you've been vomiting for a while.
Yeah, but I only did it once.
His past medical history does include a history of stuttering priapism.
And of course, the media leads with a hook to try to grab your attention, even if it is a little sensationalist.
The UNC have come up with a novel way to overcome peanut allergies.
And instead of creating a vaccine, they're trying to render the peanut itself harmless to even those with the most severe allergies.
Tonight, the head of the CDC traveling in Liberia announced the world is losing the fight against Ebola. And standing in the pouring rain outside one clinic, we could see why, as we witnessed something truly terrifying.
We are following developing health news at this hour. The usually cautious World Health Organization is now using alarming language to describe the Zika virus. Today, the WHO said the virus is, quote, spreading explosively across.
The key to resolving this conflict, it's not easy to achieve, but it can be done. It's actually the secret to life.
Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
when you're presented with a topic and the necessary details, just think of the most important point you want to make that would help a person or a parent make the best possible decision for their child's health. Just one thing. Even if there's more than one important thing to talk about, just one. That's probably all you're going to have time to cover anyway. One thing, over and over and over and over again. Say it so many times that the producers or the editors can't help but use that quote. It's going to be the one thing that they remember you for. There are some key phrases you can use to signal to the reporter or to the producer that the most important thing is coming. You could say things like, the one thing you really need to know is, or, look, bottom line, or you could always use President Obama's favorite.
So let me be clear. So to the Iraqi people, let me be clear about America's intentions. Let me be clear. The United States government has no interest in running GM. So let me be clear. But let me be clear. Let me be clear. I'm committed to making these cuts in a way that protects our senior citizens.
So they won't be able to do anything but get your point. Now, a lot of people worry about that gotcha question, the one that's going to make you look bad before the interview. It's not the same for us, frankly, that it may be for a politician or for a big business leader or an athlete. Usually, a gotcha question will be something like a reporter wants you to say something that's sensationalist, agree with an agenda or a point of view, or start talking about a hypothetical situation, a worst case scenario type thing. And sometimes it's just the reporter doesn't really understand the issue very well and just asks a question that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So one of the things that you can do there is just sort of do what we call flagging and bridging, but we're just talking about getting the conversation back on track. And it's using those phrases again like, well, the one thing you need to know is this, or let me answer your question this way, or yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it's really important that sort of thing. And again, that's just getting the conversation back on track. Here are some examples of things that you can say to get that conversation back on track. And if you're looking for an example of somebody getting a question that's really out there and bringing it right back to the message, I tend to look to politicians as the go-tos for the great examples of that, and here's one.
When you go back to those old-fashioned values, how are they consonant with your party taking money from a pornographer?
Oh, you know, these funding stories, they come, they go. These are people who own the Express newspapers.
Yes.
Right, well, in that case, in my view, it's perfectly acceptable for us to take a donation from them.
They also own horny housewives, mega boobs, posh wives, Skinny and Wrigley. Do you know what these magazines are like?
No, I don't, but I do know that if someone is able and fit and proper to own one of the major newspaper groups in the country, then there's no reason why we shouldn't accept donations from them. And the only difference between us as a political party and what went before is that all the donations are made openly, and so that every single thing about party funding is for the first time out in the...
And that's really it for now. Thanks again for watching this video. Please send me a note back that says you watched it, and we'll set up a time to talk about a scenario, answer any questions that you have, and try Chapter 2 of your training. Thanks so much.